Welcome back, high school hockey fans, for another edition of This Week in Wisconsin Prep Hockey. As it's the season's over now. The state tournament's done and champions have been crowned, and we're going to talk about the state tournament as we're going to go back and talk about the championship games and all tournament teams. We'll talk about that, and going to go ahead and open it up first. Let's go to the D2 championship game. A very good game, a very close game in the end, but the Rice Lake Warriors end up being the state champions, denying Fond du Lac Springs of a three-peat.
That is correct, MJ. They did deny Springs of being three-peats in the first three seasons of Division III hockey. It was a really good game. It was really even overall. Neither team really looked like they had an upper hand on the other than like the last 4 to 5 minutes of the game. Springs just went full on crazy offense mode and threw everything but the kitchen sink at Rice Lake. They got a goal out of it, but not the two that they needed to tie it. Interesting thing about this game is that Rice Lake scored 26 seconds into the first period. In the second period, Springs came out and scored 14 seconds into the period. And then in the third period, Rice Lake came out again and scored 33 seconds into the period. Not something you commonly see. Usually those goals in the first and last minute of a period are kind of killers, but they didn't really seem to have that kind of effect on the game. But it was just kind of weird that they kept happening.
Yeah, that is kind of where the tide turned. I mean, Rice Lake scored 33 seconds into the third period, but they also scored with less than a minute to go at the end of the second period. So that was really 2 goals in about a minute and a half. And one of those goals, the last one, the one that will go down in infamy and history books and Sports Center highlight clips, is the fake Michigan goal scored by Cole Fensky and set up by Adam Tim.
Yeah, Adam Tim had the puck low. They were on a power play. He had it down low beneath the goal line. He went to go around the net, stopped and cut back, and then started the Michigan. Put the puck up on your stick and reach it up. And as he was doing that, Fensky was cutting back across behind the net there, and Tim left him the puck. The defenseman and the goaltender both thought that Tim was going to be going for the Michigan. You can see the defenseman dive down at Tim as Fensky skates by. He's a right-handed shot, grabs the puck, and on his forehand just wraps it around into the net. Probably one of the, as far as he's concerned, one of the easier wraparound goals he's ever had, because everybody was focused on Adam Tim on the other side of the net, pretending to do the Michigan that he actually tried to do in the opening round game against Lakeland.
So you think the attempted Michigan play in the opening round was a setup, put it in their heads that he's going to try the Michigan in the championship game?
Well, I had heard afterwards that they had been working on this specific play for like 4 to 6 weeks, and they just needed a time to do it, and they picked a time. But
Coach Engel did put he on his Facebook thing. He did put a clip of this goal and a clip of them at practice doing this same drill. So they had practiced this, and apparently they were saving it for this game.
And what I heard on social media is that Tim had gone for the Michigan before in the season. Whether or not there's a reputation for that, I don't know. But I had heard that the one in the semifinal against Lakeland was not his first attempt. So if that reputation is out there and that's in your heads, that even it plays into it. And another interesting thing about that, they were on the power play there. Both those goals, the one at the end of the second period and the start of the third period, were both power play goals. A couple untimely penalties for Springs, but Josh Engel, professional defenseman, ran 5 forwards on his power play. I don't know that I've seen, I mean, 4 forwards and a defenseman you see pretty often, but 5 forwards on your power play that's all out. You know, it might come down to the fact that his defensemen are defensemen like he was. You know, 4-year starter at Wisconsin, Engel did not have a lot of points. He had a lot of penalty minutes and he had a lot of blocked shots, but he was a defensive defenseman first. And like Nathan Carroll, who ended up being first team all tournament, he is a defensive defenseman. Jake Engerbretson, he had 3 assists on the year. They both had, you know, assists in the championship game, but they were defensive defensemen, so that might be why. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting that Josh Engel, professional defenseman, had 5 forwards on his power play.
And we did get a chance to speak to Nathan Carroll and Jake Engerbretson. Well, we'd asked to speak with Nathan Carroll, but he brought along Engerbretson to interpret for him, because you know, Nathan Carroll, you know, he came up there and, you know, grunted a few times, and big guy. He brought Engerbretson along to extend the interview and kind of flesh out the details that he didn't want to give us in his own yes or no type answers.
Well, I got the text from Carol's aunt, who I happen to know. She says, "Can he bring a friend?" What would I have said?
Right. Well, I mean, Engerbretson said right away when he came, yeah, I came here to do most of the talking for him.
Well, you know, some people just don't like being interviewed. We watched, we'll get to it later, but we watched the between periods interview that the WIA broadcast did with Davis Drawiski in the championship game, and you know, they were like trying to, you know, get him to give something away, and he absolutely would not tell you what his team was doing or not doing, or he just, some people just, when it comes to the interview, they don't really want to give anything away.
We're going to call him Davis Belichick now.
Yeah, so it was nice. It was nice of Nathan Carroll to bring an interpreter with him, so it worked out well. But anyway, I guess we do have to mention, and this is not to take anything away from Rice Lake and from their win. You just kind of have to wonder if Talon Blank would have made a difference in this game, as Talon Blank has made a difference in most games that he's played in, but he was not available for Fond du Lac Springs, and that's part of hockey. That's part of sports. Injuries and stuff happen. You know, you don't always get to put everybody out there that you want. But I think it just does bear mentioning anyway that you know, we talked about, you know, Springs being a 1-line team. Well, 1/3 of that line wasn't there.
Well, and I think with him there, with or without him there, I think if these two teams played 10 times, they'd probably be 5-5. They were that even. Springs offensively is a 1-line team. Rice Lake offensively is a 2-line team. And I think, you know, over the 10 games, I think they'd even out pretty well. That was one of the better state finals I've seen in a while. Like, we've seen 1-goal games in a state final fairly recently, but sometimes it's because there's a goalie standing on his head and you know, stuff like that. But this was just two teams that are truly even and balanced, going head to head. It was a really fun game to watch.
Yeah, and Rice Lake being, you know, strong, you know, with their strong defensive defensemen. I mean, they put their focus on stopping Dianovich. You know, I mean, he had an assist in the game. They basically took him out of the game.
You guys know from the past years being able to talk to Coach Walt and stuff that they're not going to make excuses. They're just going to give, you know, props to Rice Lake for earning and winning this championship. And, you know, as you said, Burglar, you know, while it would have been great to see Talon Blank playing in the game, they understand, you know, those are the breaks that happen. And I'm sure the Ledgers are the first ones that would not be using that as an excuse.
Right. And one other thing I just noticed here that you mentioned we talked about the goal at the end of the second period, at the beginning of the third period. 2 power play goals. Those were the only penalties Springs took in the game. There were only 3 penalties in the game, and those two right at the end of the second period cost them. And the other one was actually one was near the end, and that cost them. Then one after that goal was scored, and that cost him again. So only 2 penalties, and Rice Lake took advantage of both of them.
I guess that's why you put 5 forwards out on the power play.
Well, Junior, why don't you go ahead and cover the Division II all tournament team there?
Sure. This year, Wisconsin Prep Hockey, we invited the coaches in that particular division. So the 4 coaches for Springs, Rice Lake, Baldwin Woodville, and Lakeland to submit their votes. And we also invited other media people who are going to be at the whole tournament. If you were there to broadcast your team's game and that's all you saw, then we didn't send you an invite. But if you were there for the whole show and we knew you were there for the whole show, then we invited them. So I tabulated all the results, and Cole Fensky was the leading vote getter and is named tournament MVP for D2. The rest of the first team forwards are Jace Fitzgerald of Rice Lake and Jonathan Korb of St. Mary's Springs. Defense is Ian Sobel from St. Mary's Springs, Nathan Carroll from Rice Lake, and goalie is Ian Krantz from Rice Lake. Second team forwards are Adam Tim of Rice Lake, Josh Austin of Springs, Dayton Dianovich of Springs. Defense, Jake Engerbretson of Rice Lake and Connor Schramm of Springs, and goalie is Hayden Rising of Springs. And then honorable mention is Cooper Fink of Lakeland and Sam Sikora of Baldwin Woodville. Those are the forwards. And on defense, it's Blake Locken of Baldwin Woodville, Cody Olson, and Teague Wagner of Lakeland, and Cullen King of St. Mary's Springs. And honorable mention goalie is Dominic Height of Baldwin Woodville. And Jonathan Korb making first team is kind of a thing. He's a grad year 2023, so he's a junior this year. During the regular season, he had 3 goals and 7 assists. During the state tournament, he had 3 goals and 2 assists, and all 3 of his goals were basically dirty in front of the net goals. Having a nose for the puck, finding the puck in front of the net and putting it in. That's kind of cool to see, filling in on that first line for Talon Blank. He made the most of that opportunity. And one would assume that he'll be on their first line with Talon Blank next year with Dianovich and Josh Austin graduating. But yeah, he showed he's got a nice nose for the puck. He played really well with Austin and Dianovich, and he brought he's not huge, but I think he brought a little more physicality to that line than they had before. Certainly more than Talon Blank. Talon Blank is a weave around you kind of player, or as Jonathan Korb put a little shoulder into you.
Well, is it true for Rice Lake that blondes have more fun?
It must be. They need to fix whatever their water problem is up there.
All right. Well, there's the rundown on D2. Let's head over to the girls' championship game. Central Wisconsin Storm taking on Alaska Hilltoppers. And the Storm, such a defensive team. They don't score much, but they don't give up much. And 5 was more than enough for them to win over on Alaska, 5-0 in the championship game.
Yeah, and we've talked about how the Storm are an aggressive team, and you saw that in a couple ways in this one. One was Federici's shorthanded goal, the Storm's second goal of the first period. Playing aggressively in the offensive zone, picked a pocket, walked in and shot up in the blocker side corner. And then the Storm's parade to the penalty box, especially in the second period where they took 5 penalties: high sticking, interference, cross-checking, and tripping. They had a cross check in the first period and a hooking in the third period. So 6 power plays they gave on Alaska in that one. And, owing to their defense, they kept on Alaska out of the net on all of them, which is pretty impressive. On Alaska's best chance on the power play came on their power play in the third period. They got several shots on that one. For that one, Drew Sabatke was in the net. And obviously, when your top defenseman is in the box, you're going to get more chances on the power play, and that happened. But Lemke and the Storm were able to keep them out of the net. The biggest surprise was the 5 goals, 3 of them by Sammy Federici, and then 2 by Gabby Hauser, one of them which was an empty netter. But that was pretty good. The Storm showed a lot more offense in the tournament than I would have expected. Earlier in the season, they played on Alaska to a 3-2 overtime win. And I believe their game against the Metro Lynx earlier in the season was a 2-1 win. They come down to state and beat them 4-1 and 5-0. Generally speaking, when you face those teams a second time, things actually get tighter defensively, not wider open offensively. So I think the Storm really stepped up at the state tournament in a way that the other 3 teams really didn't. They picked up their game.
I think both teams played very good defense. And if you look at the number of shots on goal, there were shots that were blocked. There weren't a whole lot of chances. I think the biggest difference was actually Sammy Federici. She was determined. I mean, the first goal, she picked up the puck in the corner and forced her way to the front of the net, put a backhand on net. That was stopped. She reached back and got her own rebound and put that in. I mean, she was on a mission. They did an interview with her after the game on the local TV channel up here, and she said, she felt that she left everything she had out on the ice. I mean, she put everything she had into that game, and it showed. I mean, she dominated that game. I mean, I don't know that Central Wisconsin dominated, but when she got the puck, she went to the net, and she went to the net hard. And, she scored 3 times, and her team won. So
I hadn't seen her at all. I've heard about her on Twitter, the Storm's Twitter feed, but boy, seeing her in person, she's impressive.
Well, one of the funniest things I think came out of this was on our Facebook page and everything. And I think the comment come out that MJ had picked on Alaska and none of the rest of us had picked the Storm. Our teams had been eliminated. But there was the comment by CW Storm handle there saying, we'd like to have a word. And, I think they got the final word on us with it, showing they are the state champions, and they showed why they are.
Since I took on Alaska, and you guys didn't take the Storm, who did you pick? Fox Cities?
Burglar picked Fox Cities. Dell and I picked the Metro Lynx.
Okay.
So the Storm was able to hand it to us twice. They got their win over the Lynx, and then they came in and won the state title.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive. Even when Chloe Lemke was under pressure. Why is it rude?
Well, because I don't like being proven wrong.
You're lucky they didn't take you back behind the woodshed.
A fair number of the shots that Lemke stopped were buried in her chest. But as Kirk Dobbinspec said, because he was up in the booth with us for the D1 game, when a bunch of shots are going into the goalie's chest, that means the goalie's in the right spot. They're where they're supposed to be. It was kind of interesting watching that next game with him, because every time a goal was scored, he would tell us what the goalie did wrong. Too far out, or not far, not too deep, not square. It was kind of funny. But Lemke, I mean, a lot of shots buried in her chest because she was where she was supposed to be, but she made a couple of really nice pad saves in the third period.
And one other thing that I thought that the Storm did very well is all season long, we've heard about Kia Bronston, and deservedly so for Onalaska. She's had a good season. I honestly don't think she had that many shots on goal. They kept the pressure on her and kept forcing her to the outside. The defender for Onalaska, I think it's Jenna Hames.
Yes.
She she tried to make things happen, but Onalaska did a good job at forcing turnovers off of her. I mean, not Onalaska, but the Storm forcing her into turnovers, trying to bring the puck up. And, the Storm did an excellent job with their defense.
Yep. And the WIAA statistician actually tracks shots by player. They do it whenever they assign a shot, they assign it to a player. And Kaya Bronston took 3 shots in the game, 1 in the second period and 2 in the third, that actually made it through to the net for saves. So 3 of their 16 were hers. Whereas for the Storm, of their 13 shots, 7 of them belonged to Sammy Federici. She took more than half the team's shots, which is probably how she ended up with a hat trick.
Yeah, the girl's money, no doubt about that.
Gabby Hauser took 2 shots and scored 2 goals.
That's efficiency.
That is efficiency. You can hardly be more efficient.
Junior, the girls all tournament team, how'd that break down?
Sure. Same people voting. Well, slightly different media people, because different people were there for the different specific tournaments. But when it was all said and done, Sammy Federici and Drew Sabatke for the Storm share co-MVP honors as the highest vote getters. It was a tie. The other forwards besides Federici were Anna Szymanski of Onalaska and Gabby Hauser of the Storm. And Jaden Hammis of Onalaska was the other defenseman. Goalie Chloe Lemke was the first team goalie. Second team, Kaya Bronson, Onalaska, Logan Crawford of the Storm, Hannah Bauman of the Storm. Defense, Ava Rody of the Storm and Lydia Walls of Onalaska. And second team goalie was actually Claire Calms of the Storm, since they each played a game and did very well. Honorable mention forwards were Kaya Bice of Madison Metro, Michaela Zilish of Fox Cities, Tessa Deal of Onalaska, Grace Rentmeester of Fox Cities, Gabby Duvere of the Storm. Honorable mention defense were Elena Tauscher of Onalaska. I wonder if she's related to Mark Tauscher. Abigail Dean of Central Wisconsin and Maddie Dupuis of Central Wisconsin. And then the honorable mention goalie was Diana Hansen of Onalaska.
Okay. D1 game. My, oh my. I'll tell you what. The Hudson Raiders. What do you say, guys? I mean, crying out loud. They, Edgewood got 2 goals on them, but boy, you talk about relentless on a team. Man, they just kept coming and coming and coming. They just didn't let up.
Well, defensively, it took Hudson 5 minutes to get up to speed with Edgewood. 12 minutes into the game, shots were 6-1 in favor of Edgewood. Edgewood ended the game with 14 shots, which means over the next 46 minutes, they took 8 shots after getting 6 in the first 5. It took 5 minutes for Hudson's defense to catch up to Edgewood, and it took almost the entire first period for their offense to catch up. Hudson only took 3 shots in the first period. But once they did, it was really their game to lose. I mean, Edgewood kept it close on the scoreboard, but other than that first period, Hudson really controlled the play. Edgewood's 2 goals were both really well executed, good goals, but Hudson really started taking it to them after the first period ended. For the first 5 minutes of that first period, I'm like, ooh, Kirk might be right and we might be wrong. Because he thought Edgewood had a pretty good chance, and they did, but once Hudson got up to speed, it was a different hockey game. And then those 2 late goals in the second period really sealed the deal. As Coach Rothering said, both to us and to the Wisconsin State Journal, yeah, once Hudson went up 4-2, he knew it was going to be tough because you can't chase Hudson. He was most disappointed that in that offense that the Crusaders put up in the first period that they didn't score, because he thinks playing with a lead, and I agree, playing with a lead, this would have been a much different game. But once they fell behind Hudson, it's not a team you can chase.
No, and we had talked after the first game that Hudson does all of the safe plays. They make the short passes. There were a couple times where I thought, in their own defensive zone, they had like the far wings open, but it's like, nah, there's somebody over there. I'm not going to risk it. And as Bill had mentioned in the first game, they're entering the zone. Like if they had a clear entry into the zone, they took it. If there was a defenseman challenging them, they dumped it and went after it. With 20 seconds left in the first period, it's like they threw that out the window. They made a long stretch pass from the middle of their own zone straight up the ice to Matthew Maurer, who was at the blue line. At the far blue line. They hadn't done that all game. And Matthew Maurer came in, and instead of just dumping the puck, he actually made a move to get around the defenseman and drew him wide. Two things that hadn't happened in 4 periods. And then once he got him wide, he just made a beautiful drop pass, and Kokendorfer was following him in and shot and scored the first goal with 20 seconds left in the period. It's like you hate getting scored on the last minute of a period. It's one thing to go into I'm sure Coach Rotherham God, we threw everything at him. We did everything but score that period. Everything was great. And then in like 20 seconds before the horn sounds, he's got to change his whole intermission speech because now we just got scored on. But yeah, Hudson broke their pattern, twice on that one play to get that first goal. And after that, it was right back to, safe pass coming out of the zone, safe entry into the zone, make sure we get the puck deep. I think somebody had counted like four little chips off the boards. The defenseman got it, the wing was coming, he chipped it off the boards. It went to their wing, their defenseman was there, he chipped it off the boards. The center got it neutral zone, he chipped it off the boards. Just all the way down the ice, just taking the safe, sure play, no gambles. Yeah, and there was that wild and wacky period where they scored, each team traded goals for about, there were like 4 goals in 4 minutes, in the middle of that second period.
Well, there was 3 goals in 26 seconds.
Got the 2-goal lead, it was just shut them down. Edgewood got 2 shots in the third period.
Ooh.
Yeah, like that, and that's the thing where Coach Rotherham said you can't chase Hudson because they can clamp down like that.
Yeah, if they don't have to score, and their mission is just all they have to do is not let you score, they can do that. We'll do it all day.
Do you remember the 2020 state tournament, the girls' state tournament, Dell, when we were going to interview Karin Bai Dietz, but she had to leave because her son had the Bantam state tournament?
Yeah.
Well, his name is Brody, and he's on Hudson, and he's the one who sent that stretch pass up to Matthew Maurer in the first period to set up that goal with Zach Kuckendorfer.
And actually, no, I don't remember that because that 2020 was when I was so sick.
Oh God,
and then
you were sick.
I spread it around to everybody else.
Spread it to the rest of the world at that point. Guys, the one thing I thought that was key in the Hudson Edgewood game is Hudson comes in 1-0, second period. Edgewood comes back and scores. Tie game. Hudson would score right again immediately. 2-1. Edgewood comes right back, scores again. They always seem to have an answer for what Edgewood would do. They found ways to get pucks to the net. Edgewood's a deep team. Their defense and offense is very, very good, and they're one of the deeper teams. But Hudson just found ways to get it done, and I I agree with Berglund. They
Hudson just
do it.
over time, they just
They're
wear
just
you
safe.
out.
I
Yeah.
think, I think the thing is like Junior was saying, that first, part of the first period when you saw all those shots from Edgewood, you thought, oh, this game's going to be tight all the way through. But as you started looking, especially, once you got halfway through that second period, JJ Wybush, I mean, all year long, I've seen how fast he is, being able to be at a couple of their games and seeing them on the ice. And of course, we've seen articles about Cody Menzel. Hudson was able to eliminate the look of their speed. They were able to match it and keep them off of being able to get to the net and everything. And once you took that speed advantage away, that changes the momentum of a game.
Well, Menzel's goal in the second period, the third goal in that 26-second span, that was a speed goal. That was the only time all day that somebody got behind Hudson's defense. And he just barely got behind the defense, but he got behind him enough. And then he managed to, from fairly close to the net, put a backhand up into the top of the net, which is not easy to do. That was a speed goal. And that was the only time I think they got behind Hudson's defense. In the first period, they had a beautiful one-timer chance off the stick of JJ Wybush, but Aiden Tepereng was able to corral that one. That was probably their best scoring opportunity in the first period, and it was really early. But yeah, then the shots weren't that bad, but eventually time of possession was heavily skewed in Hudson's favor.
Yes.
Even if they weren't
very
getting
much.
shots on goal.
We didn't talk much after the first game about Hudson's goalie Aiden Temperang, but I mean, all the pressure that you had just mentioned that Edgewood had put on in that first period, it was Temperang that kept it scoreless. It kept them from scoring in that first period because like you said, the defense took a while to catch up, but I don't think we'd given enough credit to Temperang up until that point.
Great.
Well, I mean, he I don't mean any offense to university school, but he didn't have to even play in that game.
Oh God, he was back there doing drills on his own, just trying to stay warm.
It was
keep busy.
cold.
Yeah.
The one goal that stands out to me in this game, though, was the goal by Carter Mears at 15:05 of the second, where he actually missed on the shot in front of the net, and it goes over to the side, and he ends up putting it up in it. And from
he and
left.
He and another Hudson forward entered the zone on I don't remember, I think it was a 2-on-1, and they crisscrossed. And as soon as they crossed each other, Mears went for the shot and he whiffed on it. And it dribbled off, towards the face-off circle. And he managed to catch up to it and, actually fire the shot and put it up in the corner where he wanted it in the first place.
I think that's the one I used as the cover photo. That shot. Because you can just see it right up in the corner over the goalie's shoulder. But when I was Brett and Dell took a lot of pictures of that game, and when I always look at the pictures. There's always certain things that stand out, and it was the Hudson defenseman. I mean, Giblin is in half of the pictures. Dietz is in the pictures. Ben Parent, number 12, is in the pictures, and little Bobby Breckenmeyer, he's in all these pictures. It's these four Hudson defensemen. It's just that when they're out, they're everywhere, covering the ice. They're always there's always one or two of them. If the puck is there, they are there.
Well,
like when I worked in little Bobby Breckenmeyer.
Yes.
Junior Division 1 all tournament team is
the leading vote getter and D1 tournament MVP is Max Giblin. Thankfully, we don't actually make hardware for these awards because his shelf is full enough. First team forwards are Matthew Maurer of Hudson, Cody Menzel of Edgewood, and Carter Mears of Hudson. Defense besides Giblin is Brody Dietz of Hudson, who's only a sophomore. And then goalie Aiden Temperang of Hudson is the first team. Second team forwards are JJ Weebush of Edgewood, Zach Kockendorfer of Hudson, Harry Ross of Hudson. Defense, Parker Mern of Edgewood, Brecken Meyer of Hudson, Michael McEntee of Notre Dame. And goalies, second team are Michael Polston of University School and Rowan White of Edgewood. And honorable mention forwards are Hunter Bill of Notre Dame, Aiden Lenz of Edgewood, Alex Potratz of Hudson, Carson Strappon of Hudson, and Ben Parent of Hudson is honorable mention defense. So all 4 of Hudson's first 2 D pairs made the all tournament team, shocking nobody.
Pretty incredible.
That's a pretty good group that Coach Drewiski and crew have assembled there in Hudson.
Somebody asked me the other day, is Hudson the new Superior of yesteryear? Are they going to be the one, in this 21st century? Are they going to be the one that's going to state all the time, winning championships, going deep into the state tournament? I guess it's a good question. I
believe I'll go look it up here quick.
I mean, they got 4 championships in 6 years.
Yeah, they have 4 of the last 6. That's pretty good. And the year before that, they played in the final against Appleton United. So they've got 4 of the last 6, and they've played in 5 of the last 7 finals. That's pretty tough to beat.
No, how many championships they have altogether? 6?
I believe that is correct.
They're still a ways from Superior, but boy, they are climbing up the ladder, no doubt about that. What makes them different from everybody else?
I think one thing you have to look at is numbers relative to the size of place that you are. Hudson student body is about 1,700 students, which puts them, ignoring the various co-ops and stuff, as the single school teams, puts them solidly in the middle of the D1 teams. They're not as big as 2,500 Sun Prairie or 2,500 Middleton, but they're not as small as 1,200 Superior or 1,300 Wausau West or 1,300 Waunakee. They're right in the middle, but they have consistently, they called this a down year in Hudson youth hockey because they only had 2 bantam teams. But next year they will have 3 bantam teams again. And Hudson youth hockey only feeds 1 school. So there's just a huge wealth of talent there that goes to one place. And, Hudson's only 12,000 people. The outlying areas is what gets their school up to 1,700, because if it was just Hudson, city proper, it'd probably be closer to 1,200. But, there's just depth of a large depth of talent in their youth program that's only feeding 1 high school. And if you look at their numbers, and you'd like to extrapolate it to larger cities, but that doesn't really work because there's only so much ice time you have and so many rinks you have. But Eau Claire, they put together 3 bantam teams most years, but they're feeding Eau Claire Memorial, Eau Claire North, and the Regis Altoona McDonald Co-op.
Well, and I always like to mention
the difference being Eau Claire has 65,000 people in it. Hudson has 12. So, I mean, that's why you can't extrapolate out, based on that, Eau Claire should have 8 bantam teams, compared to Hudson, but you don't have ice time for that. That doesn't work.
I always like to differentiate between students, just general students, and athletes, and in particular, blue chip athletes. There are only so many, whatever percentage you want to call them, of, top blue chip athletes. This kid could be good at any sport he plays. Good at football, good at baseball, basketball. Everybody knows these, top athletes. And the key to having a successful hockey program is getting those kids to play hockey. That's why Eagle River, Northland Pines, small town, 1,200 people, surrounding area and stuff, but still small. But except possibly for this year, I think some of them ended up playing basketball. But generally speaking, all of the top athletes in Northland Pines play hockey. When I was a kid in Superior, if you wanted to make a name for yourself, you played hockey. If you wanted to be recognized in town, got free drinks in all the bars, you played hockey.
Drinking age was 18 then.
Yes,
children.
it was.
That's what it was. How many, you got to get your top blue chip athletes to play hockey. That's why Hudson, even, it's not as big as, but they've built such a program that, if you want to make a name for yourself in Hudson, and what high school kid doesn't, what kid doesn't want to, make a name for himself, be a big shot in town, you play hockey. That's where it's the programs that have, developed over the years and done that. Back when we moved to Antigo, it was football. They had the t-shirts, you haven't played football until you've played Antigo. And, everybody played football. But again, that moved to, they'd built a decent program there and had gotten a lot of kids to come out for hockey. That seems to have fallen to the wayside lately. But yeah, it's all a matter of getting those top athletes to play hockey.
I'm gonna quiz Burglar. He'll get the answer right. 1997, Anago lost the state championship game to Sun Prairie.
Yep.
Which blue chip athlete were they missing from hockey?
Bobby Cornelius.
That is exactly correct.
He wanted to play. His parents didn't want him to play. His parents thought there was just too much commitment for the whole youth program and stuff. But he was.
They didn't want to
he'd have
drive
been a
all
great
over the
hockey
state.
player.
Yes.
He was
He'd have
built
been
for
a
it.
mean ass defenseman.
Yes.
Now, quick question for you. I also know that, some of the players that don't make the Hudson varsity team do end up playing on the, I see Hudson had a midget U18 team. Now, does Hudson run a JV?
I'm sure they do.
Yes.
Yes.
Hudson has a varsity team, a JV team, and enough hockey players left over to field a Waha U18 midget team.
It just shows you how, that area embraces hockey.
Just also shows you the development that they have there. And, from coaching, I know they have a facility there. And I still think them being just that far away from the Twin Cities, they can get access to things over there that can make them better hockey players.
When we were in Hudson for their Hockey Fights Cancer Day, we talked to Davis Drewiski, and he said in the past, Hudson used to lose some of their best players to Minnesota, various Twin Cities schools, private schools or open, they would lose hockey players to Minnesota. And he said, these days, generally speaking, they're not. They're staying home. They're playing in Hudson. And I think, to be perfectly honest, Davis Drewiski, and I don't mean Davis Drewiski as Hudson high school hockey coach, I mean Davis Drewiski as hockey player, is a big reason for that. He played 4 years of high school hockey. He went and did his time in the juniors, played with the Badgers, won a national title, and went to the NHL. And if you look at the Davis Drewiski Award, we've given it 10 years now. Two guys who won it previously are still playing juniors. Max Giblin has won it twice. He's still playing high school hockey. Well, he just finished. But the other 7 guys who won it, 2 of them played Division III. The other 5 played Division I hockey. I think Davis Drewiski is a big reason why people in Hudson, the hockey people, aren't moving to the Twin Cities anymore. He showed that you can stay in Wisconsin. You can still get those opportunities. If you're good enough, the scouts will find you. and it's working out. You know, I pointed out on Twitter last month that in my mind, Eau Claire and Hudson are the two model hockey associations in the state. As far as Eau Claire would fall into the big city model at 65,000 as far as hockey associations go, and Hudson in the smaller to mid-sized city model. That's Hudson. I don't know who the model association would be for, you know, the tiny towns, probably Eagle River, but you know, they're the two model associations in the state, and I think you see that year in and year out with the fact that one of the two Eau Claire schools, or you know, both of them, like it was this year, and Hudson are just constantly ranked at the top of the state.
Was it you who posted at some level that the top 4 teams in the is the Bantam level were all Big Rivers conference teams?
I think it was Amory Hockey shared that to our Twitter feed when someone had dug up my tweet from a couple of years ago, the 2018-2019 season, when because Squirts and Bantams play their state tournaments the same weekend. Hudson, for Division or Class 1 or Division 1, whatever Waha calls it, won all 7 state tournaments, 3 Bantams and 4 Squirts for Class 1.
Yeah, I think
someone dug up
you were
that
close,
tweet where
MJ. Or it was the top 4 teams are all in Section 1.
Section
Yes.
1.
Yeah, it wasn't all
Okay.
Big Rivers, because Superior and Spash were in there along with Eau Claire and
Okay,
Hudson.
you're
They
right.
were all in Section 1 this year.
Yeah, they were all in Section 1 this year. The top 4, I believe it was Bantam 1A teams.
You know,
Black
had
and-
MJ been right, it would have been a clean sweep for the Big Rivers Conference. Doesn't Alaska girls play in the Big Rivers Conference? Or
No,
I
they're
think they're
independent.
independent.
No.
Oh, okay,
And
never mind. I'll go back to sleep.
But you, one thing I will say, you know, as we're wrapping up the season here, we were, you know, lucky to have 3 good games for state title games this season. Throughout the year, you know, we've had some very interesting games, and you know, and we've all got to talk to, you know, coaches and different players, and once again, you know, that makes for a fun season. And Burglar, you brought it up at our awards. You know, it was great to be back in the rinks this year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, not just championship games, but really there was only one dull game out of the 9. You know, Hudson just, you know, choking the life out of U School. That game really wasn't all that exciting to watch. But the rest of the games were all good hockey games.
Keep an eye on that USM team. They got a lot of freshmen and sophomore on that team.
Well, we
And
never
the only-
expect USM to be down long, and they're not down. They were at the state tournament. It's just that they ran into, you know, I haven't been to every state tournament since Wisconsin Prep Hockey started doing this, but I've been to a lot of them. They ran into, in my mind, the strongest defensive team that's been down there. Not necessarily the strongest offensive team that's been down there, although they are quite strong offensively, but Hudson is the strongest defensive team that I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, they're pretty suffocating, no doubt about that. Final thoughts, guys. Anything you want to hit on? Something I want to mention here. It's not high school hockey, but it's youth hockey. Congratulations to Fond du Lac, Squirt 1A. Ran the table this season. How do you do that? I mean, you're talking what, 9 and 8, 9, 10-year-olds, and you win every single game.
Man, when I
Unheard
was
of.
a Squirt, we'd have been happy to run the table on a weekend, let
Yes.
alone the entire season.
Yes. Hey, if we got second place or even won a consolation championship, we were happy. But what an accomplishment. I mean, for a Squirt 1A team to go undefeated. I mean, well, you know what the future holds for that group as they, you know, start coming up the ladder. But For this year, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that is pretty impressive.
That's really about the only thing I had to hit on. Senior class tournaments weekend, and coming up in April, we'll have the Minnesota showcase. We'll see how the things break down for that, but we'll be keeping an eye on those things on the website. Guys, anything else you want to hit on?
I have a question. Why are the Waha Tier 1 playoffs and the state tournament the same weekend? Is that always the case?
It always has been the case. They tried 1 year just to see if it would make a difference. It was 3 or 4 years ago. They decided to push the Waha tournaments back weeks. There were no Waha tournaments the weekend of the state tournament. It made no difference on attendance whatsoever.
I wasn't really thinking about attendance, but did Team Wisconsin guys that played in the high school state tournament play for Team Wisconsin in the Waha 18U? Okay.
If they were done.
Team Wisconsin throttled the Caps and Junior Admirals 8-0 and 7-0.
Oh, those were already last weekend?
Yeah. 18U.
That was always the weekend. That one was always the weekend after.
Yes, but they moved it to this year, I guess.
I would guess then that the regular AAA teams got them to move that so that the state tournament players wouldn't be able to participate.
Possible.
Not possible, likely.
The
Likely
18s
possible.
and the 16s, they both did well. 15s did well.
So because
14s did well.
the tier 1 tournament was always the weekend after.
Yeah, because it seemed
that's what it
because
felt.
if I remember correctly, they would go on the Sunday after the state tournament. I remember people saying we got to go out to wherever, we got to go to TW practice.
Yes. And then the TW players would be missing from the senior class tournament because that was the same weekend as the state tournament for Waha.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, the senior class tournament was what, about 3 weeks later?
Well, it's
Near the end
varied.
of March.
Sometimes it was like when Bob played, it was the following weekend, like it is this year.
Okay.
It's moved. Yeah, that one has been less consistent in its date. That one jumps around.
So the boys senior class tournament is next weekend, this upcoming
Yes.
weekend then? Okay.
Tryouts
And-
are tonight and tomorrow. Too late for this podcast to help you.
And the
Your coach
girls,
should have told you that.
the girls junior senior tournament is the following weekend.
Where's that at, Del?
I just had it up.
Don't they usually hold that at Chippewa Falls?
Yes, it will be at Chippewa Falls on the weekend of March 19th and 20th.
Good guess, MJ.
I'm right about some things. I guess one other thing we can throw out here quick before we get out of here. Where's the state tournament going to be held at next year?
I guess we'll all
UW
find out about the
Panther
same
Arena
time.
in Milwaukee.
I know that's one that they said they're looking at.
Junior, what'd you say?
It's at UW Panther Arena in Milwaukee.
How big is that?
It's about the same as the Alliant Energy Center. It was built 2 years earlier. It's been renovated more heavily more recently. The Admirals play there.
They said, talking to one of the coaches just before our awards, he was saying that they would actually probably, how they had the black tarps up there at the Energy Center. They do that and close off the upper bowl and keep everybody down in the lower bowl part, probably. But it circles the entire rink. Wonder if
Yeah,
if
for
there's
the maximum at Panther is 12,700, but configured for ice hockey, it's 9,600.
So you're going to a bigger facility. I mean, I haven't been there since almost 30 years. I mean,
That's
I
just
don't
a
know what
guess. I mean, I know they're looking at several options. That's just my guess because I would like it to be at the Resch Center, and so that means it's not going to be at the Resch Center.
the girls' state basketball tournament's at the Resch Center this weekend.
Right, and they can't, from what I've heard in the past, is they can't guarantee availability of the ice the weekend before that, the girls' state tournament, because of the other things that they have going on there. They cannot guarantee that the ice will always be available. So that would prohibit the WIA from making that move if the ice, wasn't guaranteed to be available.
Because we don't want to move the tournament to somewhere for like a year and then move it to somewhere else for a year. And then we'd like it to have a new home. This year, to me, and I've always been someone who kind of defends the Alliant Energy Center. Like, I don't want the tournament to be played there, but like this year, it kind of felt like the Alliant Energy Center didn't want the tournament to be played there. Other than the fact they actually made the place cold for a change, like colder than it's ever been, is what everybody said, which probably helped the ice, But, just certain things are on the arena and certain things are on the WIA, like the shirts and stuff not being available at the arena and you have to buy them online. That's a WIA decision. But the various
I'll say that was a poor decision on their part.
And the various food vendors that are generally there and stuff like that, that's an arena decision. And only having 2 concession stands open in the whole building, just ridiculously long lines, very few options. The pizza place wasn't there, the sandwich place wasn't there. That's all arena stuff. And to me, it just kind of felt like this is the last year of our contract and I don't think we want it again. That's how it felt to me as a spectator.
I'm also not one to stick up for the Alliant Energy Center, but that might also be a staffing issue. There are a lot of places that can't find people. Maybe the Rocky Wrapup, maybe they didn't have anybody to send out there. Maybe Milio's didn't have anybody to send out there. I don't know.
That is possible.
Because the Dane County just ended their, they just ended their mask restriction. They were a lot tougher down there than they were up here, the whole COVID thing. So they just may not have had anybody available from those other places to be there. That's all they could staff, perhaps.
MJ.
Yes.
I just emailed a link that you can actually see kind of what the UW Panther Arena looks like.
Yep, I got it.
Unfortunately, when they give you the virtual tours with the basketball court in there, not the hockey rink.
Yeah.
But there's possibilities. There's still people trying to get the girls tournament separated from the boys, which would try to put it at Laban. Attendance wise, the girls tournament would fit at Laban. Depending on which D1 schools make it, the boys tournament might be able to fit in Laban. For D1, D2, none of those 3 of those 4 teams would have filled Laban by themselves.
But what they lose,
so capacity at Laban's only 2,000 people.
They lose their parking revenue.
Who does?
The WIAA, from what I understand, gets a little bit from the parking revenue that at Alliant Energy Center when they have the tournament there.
Yeah.
And there's no place to get parking revenue for the Laban.
Well, I don't think that's going to be a major factor for the WIAA. I think their major factor is getting all of the championship games televised. And the only way they're going to get, if they make the girls tournament a separate tournament, it ain't going to be on TV.
The numbers at the beginning of the season, I asked Todd Clark to go back past ignore last year, the COVID year, go back to the previous year, and how many participants were there in each of the WIAA winter sports. And girls hockey was by far the smallest. It was like 759 participants. It's really hard to justify spending the kind of money on airtime that, what is it, 7 stations across the state carry the WIAA championships for a sport that's got 759 students in it. I mean, girls basketball is 10,000, and girls hockey is 759.
Yeah. So the only way they're all going to be on TV is if they're all on the same weekend, and that again is that's the how everybody wants to have 8 Division I teams on the boys' side, and then it's how do you fit 4 more games into the weekend.
Do we really need 8 Division I teams?
Yes.
What?
Would that make the tournament more complete if we had 8 Division I teams?
That's what everybody wants. Yes. If you have not been paying attention.
Look at it this way: the boys sections are actually bigger now than they were when we had 8 Division I. It was all one division, and we had 8 sections. They're actually a little bigger now. The road to Madison is actually harder for the Division I schools now that there's 2 divisions.
Okay, especially Section 1.
Yeah, if we had 8, the Big Rivers schools would probably still all be together, but in the past, Hudson and Eau Claire weren't in the same section. It spreads things out a little better, and I think as far as hockey goes, I think the boys deserve it, and 8 teams is kind of what a standard hockey tournament is anyway. I mean, we've been playing 8-team tournaments our whole lives. The coaches have always wanted 8 and 4. And I think the WIA has 2 concerns when it comes to the state tournament. One, they want the championship games televised. And 2, at some point, I think they'd like the coaches and all the fans to stop yelling at them about the venue. Well, they're in control of that. They're in semi-control. They're not in total control of that.
It's their call.
If the Resch Center can't guarantee the ice, then the WIA is not in control of that. The WIA can't force ice into the building.
They don't have their own rink.
And at the Alliant Energy Center, they were under contract, so they can't just move it. Now the contract is over. Now they can do something. And we'll see what that is. But if the Resch Center can't guarantee the ice, WIA can't control that. They don't own the building. They can't force it on them. And there's only so many arenas in the state large enough to actually host it without shrinking the number of tickets available. Because, I was talking to one of the old man hockey players we play with last night, and he thinks Laban is large enough to host the state tournament.
It is not.
And I don't. I think it's large enough to host the girls' state tournament, and it's large enough to host the D1 games that have 2 private schools playing in them. Just based on the attendance I've seen over the years. But the Division II games all had more people than Laban can hold. Easily. The Rice Lake had to have 1,500 people there. Rice Lake only has 1,500 people. Lakeland had more than 1,000 people there. Laban only holds 2,000 people. You can't have this tournament in this format in Laban. So that removes Laban out. That really only leaves the Cole Center, which is not going to happen because that place is even bigger than the Alliant Energy Center, and bigger is not what we need right now. So remove the Cole Center. That leaves Resch and UW Panther Arena and Fiserv, which no. So there's really the only 2 choices, unless you want to shrink attendance, are the Resch Center and UW Panther Arena, or stay where we're at. Unless the WIA wants to build a rink, a nice 8,000 person hockey rink in
They're not in the
Rapids.
building business.
Someone needs to build a nice 8,000 person hockey rink in Wisconsin Rapids.
Okay.
Move the Admirals there.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm out of stuff.
I want to say thank you to everybody we talked to this year. Burglars mentioned it a couple times on the podcast, but it was really nice to be back in hockey rinks this year, and it felt a little weird, almost like, you know how like you run into a veteran and almost all of us reflexively say thank you for your service. And, you know, I've heard veterans say that they don't want us to actually do that oftentimes because it feels like a reflex. I feel like every time I talk to somebody or email with somebody, they're always saying thank you for everything you do for high school hockey. And I'm like, you don't have to say that every time we talk. Every time I trade an email with you, you don't have to say that. You can stop. But like our interactions with everybody this year, almost entirely, like 99% have been positive. And it was really great to be back in rinks, to be doing game recaps and doing stuff like that again. It was really fun this year. Last year, Wisconsin Pro Hockey felt like, even though we did less because there was less season to do and we couldn't go to games, it felt like work. And this year it felt like fun.
That's a good way to put it. Last year seemed like kind of a chore. This year that we went up to that game in Lakeland, where Amory was playing up there, and that place was just alive. I went to the game over in Eau Claire Hudson, and Eau Claire Memorial, and they had a band there the whole game playing, and each team had a huge student section. And it was just like I remember high school hockey used to be. It was fantastic. And again, I have to thank all the people who sent us donations. Well, two pieces of good news. I mean, one, we got enough to cover our basic expenses there, and two, we just checked our ad revenue stream, and it seems like we've got everything working again on the site, so that ad revenue is coming in. So we shouldn't have to do this again next year in terms of begging for donations. But thank you for getting us through this year, which was a tough year for us financially.
We didn't think spending all that money on redesigning the website was going to lead to us making no money on the website.
It was supposed to be an enhancement. But we apparently we missed one key aspect when we were working with Sports Engine. We forgot to tell them that, make sure you put all of our ads back in there. We need those. But anyway, they did get them back in, so that's flowing again. So we should be okay going forward. So thank you who helped us get through this year. It's been fun. Did you want to mention something about our awards for the D2 next year?
Oh, yes. 11, I think, of our 15 boys finalists this year were Division I players. And it's very possible that the 5 best players at each of those positions were Division I, 11 were Division I players. But we think there's enough great hockey players out there, and it's easy for players at smaller schools to get overlooked. So next year we are going to go 2 divisions with our forward, defense, and goaltender awards for the boys. Right now that's the Pavelski, Drewiski, and Dobbinspec awards. Those will remain as our Division I awards, and we will be looking for 3 new players to contact, get their permission to name Division II forward, defense, and goalie awards after. If you are from one of those small schools, one of those Division II schools, if you've got a player who came up through your youth program, played at your high school, and went on to play college hockey and hopefully beyond, let us know, and we'll take a look at the names. We'll take a look at anybody you send us, and we'll make some choices on who they'll be, and we'll contact them if we can, and we'll go down the list until somebody bites. If you're looking for what we're looking for, there was a player from Northland Pines in the late 80s, early 90s named Sean Carter. Played at Northland Pines High School, went on to play with the Badgers. After the Badgers, he played in the AHL and the IHL. The IHL was the other NHL minor league until 2001 or 2002. And then he went and played in Europe. long professional career. He didn't retire until like 2009 or something like that. That's the kind of player we're looking for. Close to Burglar's heart would be Joe Piscula from Anago. Played 4 years in Anago. After he was done there, he wouldn't play juniors. Then he was a Badger for 4 years, maybe 3 years. I forget, won the national title in 2006 with Pavelski and Drewiski. And then he was on the Kings with Drewiski. Was in the IHL or the AHL for many years before going and playing in Europe. Long professional career for Joe. So those are the kind of players we're looking for. We know the ones that, were close to us where we lived, but there's hockey players all over the state that we don't know. So if you've got any of those, just send them in. Tell us, where they're from, what school they went to. We should be able to find them on, the various hockey sites, Hockey DB, Elite Prospects, that kind of thing. And then, we'll add them to the list and see who we come up with.
Especially goalies. For some reason, Wisconsin goalies don't seem to get any respect out there. So, if there was a goalie from your town, your high school, small school, went on, played college hockey, went on, played professional, wherever beyond that, let us know, because we don't know of all that many goalies. And there's one goalie that we do know about that we certainly do not want to name an award after.
No,
Ooh,
not at all.
that would be bad.
And it just, as we're specifically looking for small school players, those teams that are Division II now.
Oh my goodness.
If we were just, grabbing more D1 players out of the hat, there's a lot more Eau Claire players we can add to the list. MJ would love it to name an award after Jefferson Dahl. MJ would probably love to name 2 or 3.
I heard from him
after
today.
Jefferson Dahl. Exactly.
I heard from Jefferson Dahl today.
Oh,
MJ was begging him for a jersey.
We don't
No.
we don't need to name an award after Bob Suter. No offense to the Suter family. He's got enough stuff named after him.
How'd you guys like my story about Jefferson Dahl's jersey?
That was pretty good. So we're specifically looking for those small school players.
Okay.
I got one last thing. With what Junior was saying about thanking veterans, I will say that when I'm told thank you, I just say it was my honor and privilege to serve our country. The ones that deserve our thanks are the ones that didn't come home and their families. Those are the ones we need to remember. With that being said, if your son or daughter played high school hockey in Wisconsin and went on to serve in the military, please send me an email. I have a project in mind to work on going into next season. And I had reached out to the rest of the staff here, and they were all on board with it. And it is something that if your son or daughter played high school hockey for Wisconsin and went on to serve in the military, please get in touch with me. Thank you.
Even his emails at the end say thank you. I've noticed that. Guys, should we put a bow on it?
Well, I just one more thing I have to say. If you've liked the coverage, the stuff that we've done this year and all that, then great, thank you. If you have any complaints or don't like it, please send your hate mail to trasher@wisconsinprephockey.net. We make sure that still gets forwarded to him,
And he'll take care of the problem right there. Okay, I guess that's it. Last call. And for Bill and Bill Jr., Dell, I'm Mike Hammett. We'll see you next season in November on This Week in Wisconsin Prep Hockey.